Is it okay? Like, because what is the age of consent in Kentucky? Right?
Oh, Jesus, we're not getting into that again. Well, look, age of consent doesn't implies that Loretta would be consenting. And I don't think there's any scenario where that's going to happen. So it's, very uncomfortable and yeah. Anyway, so Tim, faithfully busts Carl and Earl, locks them up, reports to Rachel that Boyd was never there, never at the robbery. Because of course he wasn't, because we know he was off kidnapping Catherine Hale. While that's all going down, Raylan's off to talk to Ava. And he explains to her the situation that she's in with Vasquez. And she has a couple proposals on how she can extricate herself from this situation. And I have our final clip of the day about that.
Mr. and Mrs. O'Fay. Gotta hand it to Limehouse. He does have a sense of humor. Does good work, too. Can't say as I'm crazy for the picture, although it was short notice. What are you doing here, Raylan?
Well, I'm supposed to be staying out of sight, seeing if you're shooting straight about the getaway plan. If you are, follow you to Boyd, catch him with the money.
But you're not staying out of sight.
Mm-mm.
So, what are you doing here?
Vasquez is pulling the plug.
What does that mean?
Means he wants to find something to bust Boyd on that doesn't require your cooperation. Tossed you back in prison.
Boyd just called. Told me to bring him the getaway that Limehouse put together. Meet him at the spot where he put this ring on my finger. You can get him with the money.
It ain't enough, Ava. I'm sorry.
Are you? What if we get him for murder?
Whose murder? What's that?
You meet a lot of guys with gator tooth necklaces, do you?
I used to work in Florida. Where'd you find it?
Hanging above the bar.
And how exactly does that help us get Boyd?
What do you mean? For killing Dewey.
Boyd killed Dewey.
You know he did.
You got a witness? A weapon? Better yet, a body?
Look close, Raylan. There's blood on it.
Ava, even if that is Dewey's blood, there's nothing that don't indicate he didn't just cut himself shaving. It still ain't enough.
So after everything, that's how this is gonna end?
It appears that way.
What if I get him to confess?
I cut a little bit of silence out of those clips, so it's a little bit smushed together. But ultimately, Ava decides that she's going to try and get Boyd to confess to Dewey's murder by, showing him the necklace, asking him about it, asking him to be honest with her. They have a conversation in the car where she says, if all else fails, I'll seduce him, start taking my clothes off. Raylan remains somewhat unconvinced, but decides to trust her because, as we know, Raylan has a weakness for women who he doesn't know if they're lying to him or not. He has a blind spot with that. And Ava is very, as we discover at the end of the episode, Ava is very clearly lying to him. But while they're driving to the meet, Boyd and Markham are doing their exchange, and it's great. It's the sort of thing that you see in a movie, and in the movie it always goes awry, right? There's always something that goes wrong at the exchange. This goes perfectly smoothly, exactly the way Boyd wanted it to go. Markham somehow lifts, that 200 pounds of money out of that car himself and drags it to the truck and puts it up in the bed. And Boyd opens it to check it. There's this great moment where he opens it and Catherine Hale is standing there next to him and looks at it and lets out this little moan.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, that's awesome. And and so he gets the money, he gives Catherine over, and before he drives away, he makes sure to tell Markham that, hey, by the way, robbing her or robbing you, that was her idea from the jump. And Markham now has had it confirmed from multiple angles that Catherine's the one who was trying to steal his money from him, and betraying him and hoping he was going to be dead because she thought he was the rat that sold out Grady. And after Boyd drives away, they have a quick conversation about that. And she says, well, I don't anymore. I don't think that anymore. You just gave up $10 million to get me back. There's no way that's what happened. But it doesn't matter at this point because he doesn't have the money.
I was going to say that, might be the first instance where Boyd's plans actually worked out for because he always runs either into Raylan or something else happens or some other stuff happens, right?
Well, so. let's not get too far ahead of ourselves
at this point.
At this point,
at this juncture,
because not 2 minutes later in real time in the episode, in probably a 30-minute drive in the show, Boyd meets Ava in the clearing, tells her he's got the money, and she says, I'm sorry, Boyd, and it's because she's gonna shoot him. So she shoots him in the chest, holds the gun on Raylan, takes Raylan's keys, and drives away in Boyd's truck. Now, Raylan lets her go. He doesn't shoot her. He doesn't try and stop her, disable her in any way. He just tells her that he's going to be chasing her. And she says she knows he is. And there's that moment where he's clearly contemplating whether he's going to shoot Ava or not. And he elects not to. And I always wonder about this. Like, why doesn't he shoot her in the leg? Why doesn't he shoot her, in the foot or something? She's probably not very good with that pistol at the distance that they're at. Right. Yeah. We've seen nothing to suggest that Ava is particularly good with anything other than a long gun at close range.
That's right.
I mean, she even misses center mass on Boyd, trying to at point blank range. Yeah, at point blank range. Yeah. So you have to wonder, why Raylan doesn't shoot her in the leg or thigh. And of course, everybody else wonders that too. You got to, we hear in the next episode, you hear Vasquez talking about how, you got a marshal who shoots everybody he comes across, all of a sudden doesn't shoot this woman who's shot a person and held him at gunpoint and getting away with $10 million. It does look pretty suspicious.
$10 million weighs about 200 pounds, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the math I did. It's like 204 or something like that in hundreds, if it's all in hundreds.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a lot.
But 100 pounds, let's say it's 100 pounds for each bag.
Yeah,
5 million each thing. That's not that heavy, is it?
I think it is. I think it is. You try carrying 100 pounds up a hill. I don't think it's easy.
I mean, yeah. I mean, we're talking about later, but I'm just thinking I guess what's his name? Markham is an old man.
Yeah, Markham's an old skinny dude who smokes pot all the time. He probably isn't the healthiest cat, but has no trouble hauling it from the truck to the or from his SUV to the truck. But it does defy reality a little bit what we see in the next couple of episodes, but we'll talk about that when we get there. Now, there's a moment where, Ava is talking about her passport and she says, Limehouse has a great sense of humor, Mr. and Mrs. O'Fay. But when they show the passport, it has her name as Cheryl Brown. I don't know if you noticed that, a little bit of an inconsistency there. And I don't know what's so funny about Mr. and Mrs. O'Fay either. I didn't get the
I didn't get it either. I wouldn't. Does that reference something? Well, I guess we don't know.
Yeah, I have no idea. I wasn't able to. I didn't look too hard, but I wasn't able to find anything that would suggest kind of what that joke is. I'm sure somebody in the Reddit community knows that. So if you do, send us a note on Reddit, Groundless Podcast, or groundlesspodcast@gmail.com. Let us know what you think that reference is. But I've got one more thing I forgot to mention here, and that's this.
You use your tongue prettier than a $20 whore.
And I think we used this word once already in the show, but I love this word, and I mentioned at the time that I love this word, so I'm gonna use it again. It's peckerwood, which is uttered by Loretta's grand aunt, which is a noun that means a white person, especially a poor one. And I'm pretty sure we did this before, but I do like the word peckerwood a lot. I think it's a really good one. I like it.
Oh, I looked that up as far as au fait.
Yeah.
It's meant to be the N word for white people.
Oh, really?
Yeah, according to Reddit. I just looked up under the justified thing.
Oh, okay. So peckerwood, basically. That's.
I mean, there aren't really any words that are at that level as far as like the N word, really.
Of course not. No, because we don't. Yeah, look, white people haven't been a maligned and subjugated group of people in most places for hundreds of years. So of course not. There's no derogatory names that carry the same sort of impact and effect that racial slurs for minority groups do. That makes perfect sense. And you've got all the classics, the honky and cracker and peckerwood and apparently au fait, which I had no idea about. But none of them have the weight of an N word or a word that you would use to describe an Asian person or anything like that. So.
No.
Or I would even argue I would even go so far as to argue the word redskin would be as offensive as any of those as well. And it was the name of a friggin' football team until a few years ago. But
that's right. Or the Indians.
Huh? Yeah. I think Indian is a little bit less sort of incendiary, but also, good that it was changed. I've been a Cleveland sports fan for a long time, and my feelings on the Indians had always been that the word the team name Indians is not particularly inflammatory, but that's not for me to decide. And so the issue I always had with the Cleveland baseball team was the mascot, the Chief Wahoo. Was terribly offensive.
That's right.
Terribly offensive, especially the early versions of Chief Wahoo. If you look back at what Chief Wahoo looked like in like the 1960s and the 1970s compared to what he looked like in the 90s and the 2000s, holy cow. Like, really?
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at it right now.
See?
Wow.
See?
It looks like, because I've seen some of the propaganda from like Germany back in during World War.
That's exactly what it looks like.
Same sort of thing, like the exaggerated features and all that other stuff. All right.
Yeah. So.
Ooh.
Yeah. So, but I do have a soft place in my heart for racial slurs against white people. I don't know why I find them entertaining, but so. All right. But I think that gets us through our episode. So anything you wanted to add there?
Do I have anything? No,
No?
I don't have anything else.
Okay.
No, I mean, this is as far as like in this whole season of episodes. I mean, the last episode was good. This one keeps getting like builds on it, so it's kind of like, you know, we're coming towards the last few episodes. But yeah, these are like some of my favorite for the season.
They're great. They're great. And there's a little bit of I would say that there's a little bit of a lull kind of in the next two episodes. The story drags a little bit in one sense, but in every other sense, it is rocketing forward at full speed. And it's very, very good. So let's get to our final segment then.
I was telling my friends this morning how yesterday you come